everyone, and welcome back to the workshop. My name is John with Just a Nazarene Leather Company. And today we have another shop talk where I typically share with you different tools and techniques that I use in my leather workshop, but not so today. Today, it's not limited to tools and techniques in the leather workshop. It is the leather workshop. This is the long-awaited workshop update and tour. There are different things that I wanted to get done to improve my leather workshop, and I bring you along and show you those updates today. There are 3 of them. Specifically, I am building new shelves on a workbench that I have in my workshop. I am bracing and securing another system of shelves that I have on the side, and then my cabinet that's up here, I need to raise that higher to utilize the space better underneath. So I walk you through time lapses where I mostly do voiceover for the 3 different updates, and then for the second half of the video I walk you through and give you a tour and show you everything that's in here and talk about different items along the way so that you can get an idea of what this space that I work in actually looks like. So I did not record a separate intro for starting the shelves, but we're going to start with that. That's the biggest part of it. That's what I was most excited about. But as we hit up different topics, there will be short little intros that I give along the way. So without any further ado, let's get into the first improvement we made on our workshop, and that is building wooden shelves. The first thing I had to do in order to build the shelves was actually make myself a set of sawhorses. So I bought a kit from Amazon. You'll see the brackets in just a bit, but what I'm doing with the lumber that I've got for my shelves, I bought enough, or I think I bought enough, to make myself a set of sawhorses that I can then use to cut the boards that I needed for my shelf. As you're going to see in a bit, I didn't actually get enough boards. I was one too short because for some reason I only accounted for 4 boards for the sawhorses when I actually needed 8 boards because each sawhorse has 4 legs. So what I'm doing on a little plastic table here is I am strategically cutting boards to best utilize the 8-foot lengths that I've got to create my sawhorses. And yeah, they turned out pretty well. I'll leave a link in the description below for the kit that I got from Amazon. It's just those brackets. They fit the 2x4s very, very well. It was a little bit tricky getting them to stand up by themselves to put that cross beam in. But I was able to get it figured out. I actually struggled more with the second set of sawhorses, as you're about to see. So I cut the leg length to 30 inches, so all 8 of those, oh yeah, did you see it drop there? All of those are 30 inches, and then the cross beam is 24 inches. I used 1-inch wood screws to attach each of the legs, and then I believe it was 1.25 screws, wood screws, that I used to put at the angled pieces. What I'm doing here, I'm cutting the uprights for my shelves. I'm cutting them to 47 inches. I believe I explained later why I didn't go just 48 inches, why I didn't just cut them in half. There is a reason for that. And so the rest of the boards here, I'm just cutting to length, using my speed square as a guide for my circular saw. So yeah, I probably won't make you sit through all of this. I'll either speed it up or cut it out, and we'll pick back up when there's something interesting to talk about. Oh, and speaking of that, we're back. As you can probably see, I changed my shirt. So that is because I found out I was a board short, had to go to Lowe's, go get another board, and so I was sweating. It was incredibly hot and humid outside, so I changed my shirt, got that cut. Now what I'm doing, I'm giving each of these boards a sanding just to get them somewhat smooth over all the edges. You probably saw briefly I got a damp rag and wiped down all the dust because I am going to put a stain on these boards so it'll match the workbench that I have. So I do this for all of them. I'll probably speed this up. This is me just doing a sanding. I think I'm using 120 grit on this just to knock off some of the rough spots. Now, as I finish up the sanding, I'm going to go grab some lengths of conduit to set my boards on. So I have some construction materials near my house, drag them over, and that'll help keep them up off the ground. I'm using a Minwax Poly Shades. It's got like a polyurethane and the stain in it. And for those of you who do this kind of stuff more often or in a professional capacity, please forgive me for my sloppy and quick work. I'm just trying to get this done as quickly as possible. So I am actually spreading the stain on 3 sides of the board, lifting it from the bottom and setting it on the conduit. Once I get done with all the boards, I'm going to come back and stain the bottom of it and kind of touch up the sides as best I can. And yeah, because I wanted to not drag this on because it was very hot and humid. Not sure if I've mentioned that yet, but it definitely was. So that's what you're going to see me do here, and I'll come back when there's something interesting to talk about. As we finish up here, here's a close-up. Can you tell which of the boards was the one I just bought from Lowe's and hasn't been sitting in my workshop getting accustomed to my temperature in my house for several months now? You guessed it, it's the one at the very back there. So, good rule of thumb, make sure you buy your lumber beforehand and account for everything. It's good to let your lumber sit in the place where it's going to be for a while so it gets accustomed to the environment and doesn't look different like mine does here. Alright, as you can probably tell, I am cleaning up my workshop. It is filthy. I have stuff everywhere, and so I'm just trying to get my surface cleaned up. This is where I'm going to be putting the workbench. So, yeah. Enjoy. Some of you, I'm sure, can appreciate the filthiness that a workshop can get, and mine was just out of control. So this was very therapeutic for me to get things cleaned up and worked on. And so, yeah, I'll let you see the finished product when it is done. I had left dye in an edge dye roller, and somehow stuff was evaporating out. The dye leaked around it and got on my workbench. Didn't realize that, so I went and got some gloves so I could clean that up. But yeah, top of my workbench maybe permanently dyed. Alright, so here's what we're doing. I didn't have a chance to film an intro because right as I was going to do that, started pouring rain. So I just decided to go ahead and get the space cleaned up. This is my secondary workbench at the back of my workshop. I've got several tools screwed and bolted into the workbench, including my leather splitter. I've got this isn't like the deluxe one, I don't think. What's this called? Whatever, it's my dual edge beveler, and then I've got my press from Tandy, and then I've got my burnishing and sanding tool. So I've got the handheld attachment on it, so that is all bolted into the workbench here. Alright, so what I'm going to be doing, as you probably noticed, let me back up here, I am underutilizing a lot of space here. So I am going to build shelves similar to the ones on my main workbench using the Shelf Links kit that came with my workbench. So if you've seen my previous workshop video, you've seen me make those. Here is what the links look like. There are 6 of them, and it came in the kit with my legs that I have made, so very sturdy, the same kind of stuff that like plastic pallets are made out of. So what I've got in mind, I've got shelves that are almost 4 feet tall. I could have made them exactly 4 foot, but that would have given me 0 wiggle room at all. My goal is to put things like these crates and containers like this on both of my shelves and have it right up against the ceiling at the top. From the top shelf, that is about 4 feet from the top, I'm going to go 12.5 inches lower and put my second set of shelves, which are these links. So again, it'll look something like this. All right, that's about the space between the top shelf and the bottom shelf. All right, now if you look closely, let me make some adjustments here, stand by. All right, there we go. If you notice, these shelf lengths, all right, are kind of upside down. The top boards all run flush with the edge. Up underneath, these center two boards stick out and are flush to the edge here. And then I've only got 3 boards. Technically, your front and back board would stop right there and be cut a little bit shorter, but I've got a lot of stuff up here. I can't show you that right now. So what I decided to do here, as you'll see in just a bit, I'm going to make 6-foot shelves across that will connect in roughly about here. That way I've got place to put things on either side of my press, and I still have space to burnish and everything like that. So the shelves are going to go up and be all the way across, but instead of the second shelf kind of running flush, I've got the center two boards longer to where they're going to stick out further over top of my burnishing machine here. That way I can make attachments for lights or camera and get different angles and better lighting on things when I'm doing work here. So enough of me talking. Let's get to work building, and we will get this done. Well, I'm talking again because I decided to do voiceover instead of music for these time lapses, so I can explain to you what's going on here. What I'm doing first, I'm marking down a mark 12.5 inches from the top. I think I mentioned that previously, because I want 11-inch clearance between the shelves, and each 2x4 is actually 1.5 inches thick, so I go 12.5 inches. That's where I put the top of that bottom shelf link, and the screws that come included with the kit, that's simply what I'm using to drive them into place and to screw them in. I'm not pre-drilling the holes here because the slots in the plastic shelf links where the boards go kind of help keep it in place. It's not going to split the boards. It fits pretty snugly, so you can just pop those screws straight in. Because of the work with the sawhorses, it was very difficult to balance the 2 legs and get the crossbeam, so I decided to start building the shelves upside down to at least get some boards in, and I realized that putting my second board in was difficult, so I had to move, excuse the repositioning, hopefully you don't get motion sickness. But I had to reposition to get the next board in, and then I was working from the ground. This is similar to how you saw me building the first set of shelves in the previous workshop video, but yeah, same exact process here. These shelf link kits by 2x4 Basics are very easy to work with and very simple for someone with skills like I have, which means you just need straight cuts, so it works. And we've got another camera reposition here. I did get this to be 6 feet across from the bottom of the shelf link to the bottom of the other one. However, one thing I should have done, I should have actually put a level on the verticals there on the right to make sure that was straight up and down. So it is not, and I did not realize it until after everything was built that that was not perfectly straight up and down. So I apologize to anyone who's OCD this affects, but yeah, it's just me getting everything in place here. All right, here it is. Here are the shelves. Got it about 4 foot tall, a little bit over 4 with the boards on top. I cut the verticals, as I'm sure I mentioned, to 47 inches. And so with the 1.5 inch board, that brings it to just 48.5 inches. And there should be about 11 inches of space between those two shelves. Notice I've got these two longer, as I probably mentioned, so I can clip lights. I may be able to store something else up there also. That'll give me more options. If I don't like it, I can always cut those flush at a later time. But yeah, these are my shelves. This will provide a bunch of extra storage on the top. So let's see if some crates actually fit. Well, they all seem to fit. So these crates are just a standard size file crate. I get them at Walmart. So yeah, you can put file folders and hangers on the inside of them. This is a banker's box. So I got this from Amazon, but it serves the same purpose as the crates. It just doesn't have holes or anything on the side and has a lid with latches. So it's actually what I use down here. Sorry for the sideways shot there. For my dyes and any of my liquids and things like that, I keep them in a box with a lid. In case there are spills, I don't want it coming out through the holes on the crates. So that just opened up a lot more space. I still have space for a few more crates, and I can get more and fill up the space underneath. So that's what I'm gonna do. That's part of what I've got going on here. And yeah, I think it turned out well. The colors are a pretty close match to the workbench that's already there, so I am pleased with it. All right, now you may have noticed in some of the other shots, I have two lengths of pegboard. They were in a buddy of mine shed. There's different hay and different things like that, different cobwebs, but he gave it to me. He was just going to throw it out, and so he gave me some baskets and some other things with some hooks that can go on the pegboard. This is the same friend that actually made me this pegboard cabinet, and so who knows, he probably bought this pegboard the same time he got this stuff. I'm not sure, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and cut that pegboard down, and I'm gonna screw it to the back side of my shelves here to give me a backstop on the workbench to where I can hang different tools. So this is, I believe, should be 2 foot. So it's 2 by 8 foot lengths. So I'll have to cut it down less than 6 feet because it's 6 foot from the outer edge of this to outer edge, but I want it flush with the boards here, so I'll have to measure that, cut it down, probably both lengths, and yeah, I'm gonna cut it around, probably with a jigsaw or something around this edge to where it'll sit flush up against the back here. Try and get a better angle, and it'll actually sit on top of this little lip. So the back side looks exactly like this front, so there's a little lip that it'll sit on top of, and somehow I will use a jigsaw and cut this out to where it'll sit down flush all the way down the back of the workbench. That way things don't roll off and fall in this gap. Especially when I am setting hardware and have small pieces, I want to protect that backstop as much as possible. So I'm pleased with this, and yeah, now let's cut some pegboard. I had full intentions of recording every bit of me cutting the pegboard, but as you can see, my camera lens kept on fogging up, so I am going to spare you from all of the blurry footage of me cutting pegboard, and we're just gonna jump ahead. I've unloaded the shelves and unscrew them from the workbench and move that up slightly because I will need to get a template for those corner cutouts that I mentioned earlier, and so that's what you see me doing here. So I picked a corner of the pegboard from some of my cutoffs that had a pretty bad corner, and that's what I put up against to trace with a Sharpie. And what I did with the jigsaw, I went just to the left of that Sharpie mark and cut it out to where you couldn't see any of the Sharpie after I got it cut on the main pieces. And so I'm just going to try and get it secured with a few screws. As you can see here, I put a washer on the screws that I used to make sure that it held in place. And so I got one at the very top. If it'll focus, there we go. And then 2 or 3 more all the way down. So I think the cutouts turned out rather well. and it looks like I will have to get stuff screwed in on the other side, and obviously you can see I'll have to cut more pegboard for the top. So this was rather tedious. I found out doing this the hard way that I'm probably going to have to unload my workbench and move the whole thing out so I can get behind it and pop screws in properly there. But for now, here's kind of the basic look that we're starting out with, and we've got a little bit more to do. Alright, as you can see, got the corners cut out, fits pretty well. Doesn't quite make it all the way to the top, so I gotta cut the last little bit of pegboard and get that to fit in. I'll cut corners at the top similar to what you see at the bottom here, and then I'll have to rip down that piece to where it fits all the way across. And now you can see that I do have my workbench unloaded, pulled out from the wall. I'm working on the back side. What I found was that just having screws at either end of the pegboard, it wasn't very sturdy. You could push on that pegboard and things could fall through. It was not a good surface, so I talked to my friend, asked his advice about it, and he suggested I get something like some 1x4s to brace the back with, and so this is what you're going to see me start to do. I used some of the scrap of some of the cutoff for my 1x4s, and I decided to use them as almost mini shelves to put my 1x4 on so I could get it level, because I couldn't be at both sides of the workbench at one time, so I just have a little 6-inch piece with a screw in the middle of it, and I used another scrap to figure out what height I wanted. I got it level, and yeah, I was able to use that as a guide to put my board on to get it set so that I could pre-drill all of my holes and pop in some wood screws at the back there. So I did 4 screws, 1 at either end, 2 in the center, and because I was working near the end of a very thin board, I did pre-drill all the holes. Then I went around to the front side that you can see, pre-drilled the holes and put in 1-inch wood screws with some washers, just again to make sure I increase my surface area, and just kind of worked my way down again at 4 different spots, 1 at either end and 2 in the center. So pre-drilled the holes, popped in the screws with the washers to get them into place. Now I am replicating that process with another 1x4 that I want to overlap my 2 pieces of pegboard, 2 inches at the top of the bottom piece and 2 inches at the bottom of the top piece. So again, I'm using my scraps to get it level. I had to take out the screws that I initially put at the top of the bottom piece of the pegboard. And yeah, it's just me going through the process of getting it level and make sure it looks good from the front end and dropping my tools occasionally. But it worked out well. I got screws put in, got it level, and I think it's turned out rather well. Of course, I needed to screw in the pegboard from the front to make sure it was secured, and I did a similar process with the 4 screws and the washers right across the top. After I ripped down my pegboard, I did a test fit before I cut corners to make sure that it would fit in the space properly, and it does. So I was very pleased with it. So I used my same template that I made earlier, cut the corners on this, and worked it in, and it fit rather nicely, and I was pleased with it. Had to make a few adjustments here and there, and I'll explain a little bit more of that in a bit. But once I got it into place, I pre-drilled the holes in the 4 different spots, directly over where I had previously drilled and put in screws, and secured those also. Then I put my last bit of 1x4 across the top here, so screwing it into the backboard of the bottom shelf, pre-drilling all holes. Then you're going to see me go around the front and secure the top of the pegboard with, again, 1-inch wood screws and washers to get everything locked into place. Well, here it is, folks, my updated workbench at the back of my workshop. So this one, the bottom part has been here with the workbench kit. I simply added the Shelf Links kit that I've had the whole time because I bought it as a set. But since my friend gave me some pegboard, as you saw me reinforcing the back with 1x4s, I have completely filled up the space with pegboard, and he gave me some of these baskets. So these may not be the final placement of the baskets and such. I'm just putting some things up there to give you kind of a frame of reference. I think I've already showed you that crates and file boxes and such will fit up here, so I have room for 8 more of those. 4 on this shelf, 4 on the top shelf. That's where I'm going to put things that I rarely ever use. Old leathers that I've used forever ago that maybe I'll want to use in the future, some discontinued stuff that I don't necessarily want to throw away. And as I have mentioned before, these boards that are extending out from the bottom shelf here are so I can clip different things on, whether that's cameras or lights, just to get better angles at the burnishing machine right there. So yeah, I think it turned out well. It's pretty solid. Alright, you can see my 1x4 in the back. So I've got it secure. There's no more gap there. Nothing can fall through. Used a jigsaw to cut around the plastic shelf links, and I put this screw so far out just in case I want to cut more of this to allow power cords and such to pass through. This one, there's a bit of a gap right here, as you can see. That is because one thing I did not account for is when I placed these two pieces of pegboard together, the holes did not line up. So if I were to move this over exactly how I cut it, the holes wouldn't line up, and I wanted them to line up, so I got them as close as I could. I think I did a pretty good job because I wanted everything to be perfectly in line in case there was something yeah, I don't know, it's mostly just a visual thing. Alright, so what I'll probably have to do back in this corner, let me see if I can zoom in here. Notice that that piece of the pegboard is actually behind the plastic because I had to put in, sorry, hopefully I'm not making you sick, because I had to give that much of a gap there. We do have this portion that is sitting behind the plastic, so there's a lot of tension on the pegboard here. Sorry for that. So I'll have to fix that at some point in the future, but I just wanted to show what this looked like in its finished form. So this task is done. Here's the next thing that I want to work on. At the opposite end of my workshop from my workbench, I have this shelf with all my hides of leather on it. Well, most of them. I've got several that are scattered in other places, but as you can see, the top of the plastic shelf is actually leaning away from the wall. You probably can't tell, but the bottom is bumped up all the way against the trim that's against the floor, but there is a noticeable gap against the top. So as I noticed, as I put more and more leather on here, it started to lean further and further away from the wall. So the shelf came with these brackets that are here, and so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a furring strip. It's a 1x3 inch board that I have, and I'm going to cut it down to fit this space on the wall. I'm going to paint it white so it blends in. I'll screw those into studs, and then I'll just put some 1-inch wood screws into the brackets, into the furring strip. The reason why the strip is there and I'm not going straight into the wall is because there is some trim down on the floor here that has a little bit of a gap between the wall and the floor. So to mimic the same gap up at the top, that's where I'm going to put a furring strip in that I've painted white. So yeah, first I have to get this entire area cleared out so I can kind of move this shelf back and work against that wall. So everything's got to come down and out, and I've got lots of stuff here. So this is the next project. let's get to it. Again, more clutter. It's actually quite embarrassing at how cluttered my workshop got, but again, this was a very therapeutic process of getting everything cleared. So I hope that as you see the clutter and filth in the workshop, that you will appreciate the final product once we get there. So got everything moved out of the way, got my tent gone, shelves unloaded from the crates and the leather. And yeah, it's a good opportunity whenever you're cleaning your workshop or reorganizing things to take this time to clean up all the dust and debris and dead bugs and everything that end up underneath different cabinets and shelves and things like that. So good time to do that. I decided just to make my cut of this furring strip right in the workshop because I could clean up any of the sawdust from such a small cut. And yeah, that's what I did there. So I forgot to measure beforehand, but with the shelf unloaded, it was much easier to bring in and out. Found the exact spot where I want the board, and I learned a trick from a buddy of mine named Judah that a good way to find studs is actually to use a magnet, because all of your drywall gets nailed into studs. The nails are made of metal, and so you can use a large magnet, a powerful magnet, to find where they are, and that'll help you locate studs. So I also have my stud finder there, so that's what that thing is hanging on the wall. So got stuff into place, found the exact marks where I wanted to put things, and originally I was going to take this back off and paint it, but I figured, well, the wall's white, so let's just put down some plastic and paint it here. So that's what I did. I got it a first coat, and I actually ended up putting a second coat, but you're not going to see that dry time. We're going to skip ahead to me just putting this thing into the wall. So made marks, pre-drilled all my holes, because again, this is just a 1x3. I didn't want to split that strip. And that is it. So furring strip 1x3, cut down to just about an inch or so short. I tried to butt it up as far as I could in the corner because I didn't want to get close in here. And yeah, just preference. I probably could have made it a little bit shorter, but that's what I did. Painted it to kind of match the wall. Pre-drilled all the holes, because if you don't with something this thin, it's going to split. And this way, the shelf is not going to be leaning away from the wall anymore. And so now I have a more sturdy place to put the leather that I have. All right, so that project is done and out of the way. And as we continue our updates, the next project that I want to work on is taking my pegboard cabinet and moving that up about 1 foot. I have a table underneath the cabinet that is really just a junk table. It's not really used for anything except for to hold stuff that I don't have any other place for it. I have a lot of my shipping boxes and stuffing and other boxes. Let's see, get a better view of some of them. All right, up underneath here, and my ideal goal is to use this table as a station for shipping, to have all my stuff I need to get orders packed up and shipped out to where I don't have to clear off the main workbench or the secondary workbench for that. But there's not enough clearance up under this cabinet to do that. So when I initially hung it, I didn't really have too much thought put into it, and so now I'm realizing it's not as user-friendly in its location as I want it to be. So like I said, I'm going to take it about exactly 1 foot up, and that way I'll be able to store some more things on top that I don't need very often, or maybe just some decorations up there. I'm not sure. But that will give me enough clearance to be able to better utilize the table up underneath. And so this is a cabinet that my friend Robert made for me. It's awesome. So it's got pegboard on both sides of the door, and so tools I use more frequently are on the outside, and I've got other wrenches and things on the inside. And then there are these interior cabinets. I'm trying to do this with one hand, and it's harder harder than I initially thought. And these also have pegboard on both sides. So I'm not even utilizing all of it. There's pegboard across the back. I've got little containers, different paints, different weights, things I don't use that often, containers at the bottom. So this is already a heavy cabinet without all the stuff hanging on it. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to actually unload all of the tools out of here before I remove that from the wall. This is hung just like I guess standard cabinets would be. There's a cleat back here that the cabinet sits on, and so I'll have to remove that from the wall, take it up a foot or so, and then hang the cabinet back up. Alright, so that is the next project I'm going to be working on. Let's get started with it. Much like the other improvements, I have to get all of my tools and equipment out of here, and I had a lot more stored in there than I thought. So I don't really use the wrenches a whole lot for my business, but I have the wrenches, and it's easier just to have them hung up somewhere. So I've got plenty of pegboard space still in the cabinet and with the new stuff that I built. I found out that I was not strong enough to lift this heavy cabinet myself without doing more clearing here. So that's what I had to do. And here is the cleat I was talking about, just that angled piece that sits back. I've got it screwed into a few studs, but the one hole at the end is actually a bolt. There's a drywall anchor that screws into. So that's what that big bolt is compared to the screws in the other spot. So there's some weird spacing with the studs. I'm not sure why it was that way, but yes, the 3 screws on the left are in studs, and then the one on the right is in a drywall anchor. So I'm just going to lift that up 1 foot and hopefully hang the cabinet right back on top of it. So all I'm going to do is take my square, which is 12 inches on one side, set that on top, and I'm going to measure it directly above. So made sure that it was level. Of course it was. Put my square up there, made my marks, and if I go straight up, I should hit the exact same studs and or not studs on the right, and I did. And so I pre-drilled the holes that'll go into studs, put my shelf back up there so that with it in place I could mark the exact spot that I needed the wall anchor. And it was kind of being annoying. It didn't go perfectly level like what I wanted, but it ended up just fine. Got it all in place, and as you can see, the cabinet goes right back on. And there it is, up a foot higher, still plenty of room on top for some storage, but now look at that clearance up underneath. I definitely have enough room to be able to work on stuff. I obviously have to get all of this cleaned up now, but I just wanted you to see the difference there. So yeah, that is a huge difference. It'll take a little bit of getting used to, having to look up to my cabinet and such, but everything is still easily in within reach, so not a problem. But it is a heavy, very heavy cabinet, and so I had to get better leverage to be able to get that off, but I really like it. My friend Robert did a great job building this for me, and yeah, we'll get it loaded back up with tools, and another project down. So as you can probably tell, I have a lot of cleaning up to do after all my work, and when that's done, I will take you around and I will give you a full workshop tour. Those were the 3 improvements that I made to the workshop, and as you could probably tell as we were going throughout, as I'm moving junk back and forth, I had to take some time and actually organize everything once the improvements were made. And so I'm just about to show you the tour of the whole thing, but before we do, first of all, thank you for watching to this point in the video. There's a lot of good stuff to come. If you don't mind, please give the video a like, maybe share it with someone who you think would enjoy this content, and if you are not subscribed, would you please consider subscribing to the channel. We also have a membership with various tiers to the channel. Information is in the first part of the description below. So if you wouldn't mind, please consider becoming a channel member also. All right, with that out of the way, let's get into the workshop tour. And here is the workshop. Let me give you kind of a panoramic view of the completed, updated workshop, and then I'll kind of start from one end and work my way down to the other. So this is in my house. There were two small bedrooms that were just divided by a single wall, and so we took that wall down. That is why in some of my videos you may see that there is a door in the background. I do have a shelf right there, but then the door we came in is over there. That is because there used to be, in the original floor plan, a wall right here. And so that was taken out, and now we are dealing with a space that is a little bit more than 20 feet long and about 10 feet wide. It's obviously a little bit more narrow with the closet right there. But things that you saw specifically me do was putting in this support right here so that I can shore up my leather shelf here. So I have things divided with some veg tan at the bottom, some oil tan, some dyed veg tan that is for specific product lines, and then some other chrome and oil tan that is for specific product lines. I've got some prototyping stuff up at the top. Here is my tarp of how I measure the square footage of my leather. So I have a video for that. If you want to watch that, see what that project is, click the link up at the top and you can check that out. So because this is two bedrooms, this is actually one of the bedroom closets. I have this filled with survival type stuff and emergency things. There is also another closet here, again filled with emergency, survival, and personal things. So they are not part of the leather workshop, so we're not going to be going into those. But I've got belts, belt straps ready to go here. I am updating product line soon. We're going to be offering different colors. So this is black, it's kind of a medium brown, and then this is a chestnut color, so it's a little bit red. Some of that difference may not be showing. There you go. Now you can see kind of the brown and the red. These are my sizing belts that I have, so when I go to shows I can simply have someone put on the belt, it's the correct thickness, and they can get their size, true to size, right there at the show, and I will make it for them right then. We've got different leather keepers. That'll be a new option that we're coming out with, in addition to the metal keeper. So I've got belts here, also got pattern for my shoulder strap there. So it was one of the Mother's Day special tote bags that didn't sell. But yeah, so this is kind of the leather side where things are ready to go and ready to be processed and turned into usable materials. All right, this shelf has been here. This is our sign. We take that to shows with us. That is a Galileo thermometer right there, and I really like Lego sets, and so this is the Mandalorian helmet. I just have those as purely decoration. Something you haven't seen previously is the position of this shelf. Different toolboxes at the bottom, trash can, a couple, whatever these are, containers. So I've got a few extra things, a lot of extra space in here that I can do. But anyway, this used to be against that back wall, but what I did, actually moved it forward so that in between my leather shelf and this shelf, we can kind of go behind here and look. All right, that thing right there, that is my 10 by 10 tent that I take to shows. So there's other pieces of wood, there's some boxes and equipment I don't use very much tucked in behind there, so trying to utilize more of the space, I simply just brought this shelf forward so I could store things that I don't use often behind it. There's an old chair that we used to use, that my wife used to use for sewing, but that one ended up being uncomfortable to sit in for hours at a time, so we ended up getting this one right here. All right, so we do have concrete floors in here that are painted this very rustic looking paint that we have, but because I'm dealing with sharp tools and punches and things that have edges that I want to keep sharp, in case those things roll off my workbench, I didn't want them hitting the concrete floors. So I got these rubber mats. I think we just got them from Amazon. Anything I talk about that I got off of Amazon and such, I'll put links to below in case you want to get yourself something similar also. All right, so yeah, I haven't really showed this much. It doesn't show up on camera. All right, this is a leather tool holder that I made, and so I just keep random things in there: paintbrushes, pens, pencils, my little thread zapper that I've got here. And yeah, I keep 3x5 cards on hands where I jot notes. I've got other notebooks where I put ideas and meeting notes and things like that. I've got some paper patterns, all kinds of stuff in here. So things I need access to on a regular basis, I typically keep in here. So yeah, that's actually my what's it called? My heating iron. So for my brass stamps and everything, got some calipers. Actually just used these today. So they ended up on top. Trash can. Any of my cutting surfaces, poster board, things like that, that is all tucked in here on the side. You have already seen this workbench in the first shop talk video where I did a shop tour with the straight edges video. I showed you all of this stuff, but let me just kind of give you an overview as to the storage options that I have here. Because of the casters, I actually have two large under bed totes underneath my workbench. One is for veg tan and chrome tan scraps and remnants. The other is strictly for the oil tan remnants, as they will leave oil on the other leather, so I keep those separate. Two shelves above that, I have veg tan and just straight chrome tan stuff that is either already strapped out or cut to length, cut to the exact size for different patterns and stuff, so that I can just, if an order comes in for something, I can just grab the pieces out of this tub, put it together, and be good to go. Same thing with the chrome tan right there. So, or, excuse me, the oil tan. So oil tans on this side, remnants, pieces ready to go. Regular chrome tan or veg tan, pieces ready to go, and remnants from prototyping and other things. I've got various things in my containers, a lot of my liquids and dyes, glues in the containers with lids so that the fumes don't fill the workshop. There's nothing in that crate right now. And then I've got hardware in that last crate. All right, so these benches, these shelves have an 11-inch clearance, and I found these crates, these are Sterilite crates. They are just shy of 11 inches tall, so they fit perfectly in there. And then these Banker box containers do the same thing. So a lot of storage here up underneath. Different weights and surfaces. I don't want to pull that all out right now, but I do have some rubber mats, some different weights that I've made, wax cloth, anything I need quickly I can throw up on my workbench and work with. What's up here? Oh yeah, these are different packaging options. So once I get an item made on my workbench, I can quickly package it and then take it over to the shipping area that we'll get to in just a bit. All right, so I've got a fan. Actually cleaned that today. It was really dusty. I've got power strip on this side, same power strip on that side. I've got lights on my workbench up at the top, and this is something that I have added. I didn't have anything blocking the light, and so if I did not have those pieces of leather that I put up, everything would get just completely washed out from the light that would be shining this way. So I just cut a strip of scrap leather that I had, put some screws and washers in, and it is completely blocking the light. See how bright that is? And then I also use these things as places to clip some of my smaller clips that I have. And yeah, I've got some shop towels here, got my Chromebook, got my glove box, 3 different size wool daubers right here, my tissue box, and then my 3 main hardware finishes that I use. Right now, most of my products just have this antique brass, but I'm going with a matte nickel or antique nickel option also. No, I'm sorry. These are actually the black ones. Black, antique brass, and antique or matte nickel options right there. Those will be the main 3 that I'm going to start to offer. So you're getting kind of a preview. Different leather options, different hardware options. These are all things that are going to be coming standard for our upcoming product lines that I'm working on now. These I've shown you in another shop talk. My handles here, all my different punches, my corner knives, and my round punches. So all different blocks of wood. There's a whole video on that. If you want to check that out, click the link up at the top. If it's not there, there will be a link in the description below. This is a strip of leather that I have dyed with all different colors, and then on the back I have what the color is written there. Got some other stuff in that jar. More clamps and such. You saw these in the straight edges video. That's another one that is linked below if you've not seen that. I show you how I cut a straight edge with those. By the way, in that video I also showed you, here's where I have my 6 and 8 foot straight edges up under my workbench. On the very top, I've got a little toolbox, burnishing machine box. So the box for that thing right there. It's got some accessories and things, extra pieces up there, so I keep it just in case I need it. Nothing in that crate. Got different patterns, patterns that I've developed, some I've bought, all there. I can't remember what's in that crate, and that is a project about wallets and airplane seat covers that may or may not be out on the website, yeah, excuse me, on the channel. If it is, there will be a link for it. If not, be watching for that soon. That'll be in the custom build playlist. And then I do have this huge box of Uline padded mailers that I use for small items. Keychains, bracelets, the paracord zeets, patches. If I get single orders of small things, it goes in one of those. All right, directly behind or on the opposite side of the workbench. Oh, by the way, that is a vacuum. And so, yeah, that is charging up here. It's one of the many things I have plugged in. Great for keeping the workbench clean. All right, on the other side of the workshop, from the workbench, I have these crates. These we take to shows. These are, I did not organize any of this stuff. These are just kind of remnants and things. We haven't really been pushing on the website much because I want to have stuff built up to go to shows, and I'm really focusing on new product lines. So I'm not going to go into any detail as far as these, but just it's a really good tip. They make a shelving unit for me in my workshop, but then also very easy to transport different things to and from shows by simply taking the crates, and then you can arrange them up on tables. So I'll show a few pictures of what some of our booths have looked like using these crates. Up at the top, we've got a lovely picture of me and my wife. She is the one I affectionately refer to as corporate in our videos. So good folks at Coffee Memphis had that mug made for me. I really like it. They also have these really cool coasters that are there. This is a scoop from Moose Run Coffee. They also make some good stuff, so that's there. Again, I like Lego sets. So it's a Lego ship in a bottle. A huge Lord of the Rings fan, and so when I saw this, I just had to get it, and it's just decoration here. And of course, Dave Canterbury, the man who gave me my start in business by selling some of my stuff. I got this autographed postcard of his. My wife rolls her eyes whenever she sees this, and she wonders why he has a fancier, more rustic frame than she does. And it's like, because Dave Canterbury has a different yet special place in my heart. And again, she rolls her eyes. Whatever. All right, up above that is our sign we take to shows with us. I have this simply command strip velcroed here and a hook up at the top. So this thing is very easy to take off and put back on, so we can take it to shows and then put it right back up on the wall, and you see this as a background for all the videos. Normally I sit directly in front of the sewing machine. That's just the way it is to get this framed in properly. But this is the Cobra Class 26. All right, we bought it from the Leather Machine Company. Great machine, does good work for us. We got the electronic positioning system when we bought it, so there's extra functionality and things like that. No regrets with this purchase at all. I already mentioned the chair for my wife. It's padded, looks good, and so that's what she sews with. All right, you normally cannot see this in my videos, but I have a little short shelving unit with a couple of bins and small crates here. And then this, I haven't had a chance to replace this. This is just a 4x4 that can come off the little holder there. I made all this myself. I want to get new ones and drill new holes. This was something I did a while ago and didn't really have a plan with it. I was just making holes for what I needed, and none of the things I originally drilled these holes for is what's actually in here. So eventually I'm going to replace this and drill better holes that will accommodate things like X-Acto knives. This is a self-centering punch in case I need to drill out a piece of hardware like a rivet or something like that. I can punch a divot in the top center and then drill that out. I've got some smaller punches, got a flathead, a Phillips head, other random things. Got some patches here. Yes, I have completed the entire Live Hard program. Very difficult, very worth it. Then of course, pedophiles aren't people. Got some challenge coins here of various things. Decorations, things I may move somewhere else just because it requires a lot of dusting for me to do that. But this is blocking this door that remains locked, and yeah, no one really comes in and out of here. All right, here was the other thing that you saw, one of the other time lapses. I raised this entire cabinet by 1 foot, and because I like my Lego sets, want a little bit of greenery in here and some flowers, so I have these decorative pieces. Also some leather masks that my wife and I made early on. That one's mine. Well, I'll have to get that to stay, so there we go, stay. And then my wife's is right there. I'm not going to take it down. But yeah, we keep that up there for decoration. I've showed this cabinet before, so I didn't change anything about it. I just raised it up a foot and still gave myself room to store some things up at the top. And these are a lot of the tools that I use quite often, and so I have quick access to them. The reason I raised them up is because I wanted to utilize this table as my shipping station, because a lot of times when I have projects going, my workbench gets cluttered up very quickly, and then orders come in and I have to clear a spot and move things. That's how things get lost and whatever else. So I wanted to actually use this table for more than just a catch-all for junk. So as orders comes in, I print them, and I normally put this on the stand. I've got stuff turned around now for privacy, because I was really trying to clean up the workshop so I could film this video here, and very shortly after this is done, things are going to get messed up again. Eventually, I want to put my paper cutter, I want to kind of hang that right here on the side, so I may do more pegboard, I may do a couple other things, but I've got shipping supplies right here. So I've got various boxes that I use of different sizes all right here. I've got pieces of boxes that have come in. If one of my leather items is too close to the surface, I will put a layer of cardboard so that when you're cutting into the package, you don't cut the piece of leather, the leather item that I've got paper stuffing here, that whenever I receive stuff with stuffing, I keep that in case I need to fill some area in my boxes. And I also have fluff right here. So just some crinkle cut craft paper. If you have not ordered from us, all right, I'll show a picture of what one of our items with these boxes actually looks like when you open it. And so we've got tape and our logo stamp right here that we use. So that is all close by so that I can take care of shipping here. Let's see. Across from our cabinet and shipping area, we have our 8-ton Mighty Wonder clicker press by Weaver, made in Mount Hope, Ohio, USA. Weaver makes great stuff. We bought this back in 2020. Been using it ever since. It's 2025 right now. Great piece of kit and tool that really accelerates the process of making different items. So we've got some die cuts here that we store underneath for our best-selling items, and we have some other of their newer acrylic die cuts right there. Okay, this is a platform for the sewing machine. So since this is a cylinder arm, right, if we want a flatbed to work on, you can kind of tell the shape of this is the bottom of it, but these long screw posts actually go into these holes, and it creates a platform, a flatbed surface for sewing. So we do have that option. I have different surfaces. I've got a piece of quartz there. I've got several rubber mats. This bucket lace that I cut out, I put in the bucket. This is about a third to half full right now. This is my lace cutter. Let me show you this in case you've never seen one of these. It is a spiral. So this cuts 5 foot of lace, and that lace is, what does that say, 3/16 of an inch thick. So that is the lace that is standard in our pouches that we do. So we cut that with that die right there. In case I need to make up some of the distance here for stamping purposes and not cutting, I have a cutting board and a pizza tray board, whatever that is, to layer in case I need to use this to just stamp something in as opposed to cutting it. So this can freely swing and is positioned just far enough away from my workbench to where it doesn't hit. All right, I put wheels on the bottom, same type of casters on the workbench are here so that I can move this thing back and forth. Got some other storage back there, a couple tripods, more wires and things like that for various things. I've also got up underneath some sand bag weights. You may not be able to see them for the 10x10 tent. Kind of see that red at the top. That's the tent back there. So when we go to shows, we want to keep stuff staked down. We're not all the time able to be on grass where tent stakes can go in, so we use these sandbag weights to weigh down the sides. So yeah, I also went to Lowe's and I got suckered into buying one of these little $20 things, but this is where I keep my various stamps and things for different companies and products I've made previously. So there's a keychain die, there's my coaster die. It's my coaster rounds and everything that are already cut out and ready to go. Another Lego set, got a bonsai tree, got a warrior guarding the bonsai tree, and then this is the fella that tends the bonsai tree to make sure it's always green. Got some knives here. These are like DVD shelves that I've had since 2010, 2011, like back in my bachelor days. And yeah, they're great shelves for little containers of different pieces of hardware and such that I've got. Yes, these are all PKS knives for reasons. I'm not going to tell you why, although you can probably figure it out, considering I am trying to make stuff for the outdoors. I want my products to fit a variety of knives, so I have purchased a variety of knives. This is the GB2. This one's hand forged. I think it's Puko is the name of this knife. So yeah, GB2 is green bearded green beret. It's got good channel, good survival classes, and stuff like that. Got a laminator here. Any instructions that come in with different machinery or tools, just things I want to keep track of, I will laminate those and keep them for reference so they don't get lost or wrinkled too much. And so yeah, that's why I have that. And we are now at the end of the workshop, and this was the biggest thing, was building these shelves and putting in this pegboard. So this is, as of right now, what I have settled on for my workbench. Because I don't have casters on these, like this workbench, there's not enough room for containers up underneath, but I still have 11-inch clearance here. So I've got some odds and end things. I've got some wax in a crock pot in this container, so I can just take that over, plug it up, and it'll melt for me. Just other random things. This is stuff that is too big for a crate, and so larger patterns, larger things that I'm working on, that's there. These tubs are all current ongoing projects that I have, so I have quick access to them whenever I want to work on them and just have everything all in one space. So if I use a piece of hardware, any scraps of leather that are cut that I want to put on, anything I use for a project, I just simply put in the tubs, and then whenever I want to work on that project, I can grab the whole tub and everything is in there. So got some different things. Let's see if you can derive what this tub is about. Maybe this one. Don't really want to give things away, but and then this is just stuff for more of the teal leather scriptures. All right, so that's the stuff up underneath. Links for all this stuff will be in the description. At the corner, I do have my sander and my burnisher. So on this side of the workbench, if you look close, like I did vacuum things up, but you can see there's still a lot of dust here. I have put cardboard on this side so that when I do use the sander, dust doesn't come in and get on my projects. This stuff I'm not worried about because that is contained in a container with a lid, but the stuff on the front can still get dirty and dusty, so I have this piece of cardboard that I will put in here to protect these items from when I'm using the sander right there. Got a little TV tray in case I need it to put something on. I typically will use it over here as I'm using the press so that I can put some of my die cuts on it, maybe the things I've already cut out, whatever. It's just good to have an extra surface here. I did put a power strip in right there. As you can see, I do not have lights underneath here. I plan to get some, and in case I need anything else with power, that'll simply connect over here and be good to go. So I had already had these items, all right, screwed or bolted into place, have them for specific reasons where they are and the spacing that they have. I wanted extra space on either side of my press for when I'm setting hardware. So on one side I can have the items that have no hardware or don't have it set, then the other side where I have the items where the hardware is set, and then I just move things out in stacks of 5 or 10, whatever I need to do. Here are my different attachments for the press. Flat surface that'll slide onto this track. I have various blocks of wood because I like those to be tool holders, kind of like these ones here. And so what I've actually done, I'm still in the process of doing it. For each of my colors, I'm making individual blocks where there will be a large die marker, so this is for dark brown, a small die marker, a burnisher, this is for dark brown, and then a bit of wax. Because what I found, especially with using lighter colors, if I had all the same burnishers and waxes and things like that, sometimes I get colors on the edges that I didn't want. So for each of my colors, dark brown, black, this is light brown, mahogany will be there, and I don't have one for like my golden brown yet, but that is here. They will each get their own blocks, so that when I'm working, I can simply grab down a block and set it here, and I can do all of my burnishing, all of my dyeing, and have a place to put that, and it's all in one spot. So I've got other random burnishers that have been used for various projects that are here, random tools that don't really fit anywhere else, that I don't use as often when I'm dealing with wax canvas, which my roll of wax canvas is actually back there also. But yeah, this is the cutter that I use. Got some card slot punches there. This is the wooden belt jig by Weaver. I only have the large one now. I don't have the shorter one. There is a video about this, so I will also link that down below or up in the corner if I'm able to do that. And yeah, got some lighters here, different knives and scratch-alls, tools that don't really fit well or can't fit in some of the other attachments. I put some rubber down at the bottom and put these baskets into place. By the way, I do have rubber up underneath because this is a metal surface and I don't want these cutting edges sitting on the metal, so I've got these rubber drawer liners made by Husky. Got them here. I also put them in this. So anything where I want to protect my sharp edges when they're coming in contact with metal and things like that, it's always good to line those in rubber. This is from Weaver. This is like my sharpening and polishing board for my edge bevelers right there, the Master Tools. So this is all the different kits and equipment for it. The Rouge burnishing compound was that aluminum oxide, and some more beeswax in there so that I can sharpen things up. Right here in my edge beveler, all right, my friend who gave me the pegboard had a couple of these, so I've got this right in line with the belts, and I got to figure out something else. If I have large straps, I'm gonna maybe put something across here so that I can put the belts up and over and pull them, and that way my belt straps aren't flopping around and hitting these blades and things like that. This will help keep that in line. I got these nice hand forged round curved blades and things like that. I got them off of Etsy. The guy or the Etsy shop that made them, they are no longer on Etsy, so unfortunately I can't link those, or if I do link them, it's not going to show up anywhere. Got the larger one right here. I use this one the most often, so that's why it's up there, but all the rest of them are here. Then I've got another one of these and my large maul, and as I get other things I may put them here also. Alright, this is my little cork. I have 4 different types of needles in here, rubber on the bottom, and a dowel rod glued into the center. What this is for is when I need to hand sew, alright, so I'm a hand stitch, I have different rows of wooden dowel pegs in here in different colors, and I don't have everything bought and purchased yet to fill this all in, but I do have a few things. So this is all Ritza Tiger thread, and these are the smaller spools for sample stuff I don't use a lot of. Again, these smaller sizes, the larger ones are here. And so if I want to sample something for someone or do a special color, I have all of these divided up by size. These are the 1.2 millimeter diameter, 1, 0.8, and 0.6. So that's what each of these rows are, and then the colors go down this way. So I'll eventually have to add some more as I get like cream colored and white and stuff like that. But for now, this is what I've got. Also got a set of these punches. I got them off of Amazon. I got them because they had some really large punches, but eventually I'd like to transition out of using these because they're not that high quality, but I do use them for various things, so I wanted them displayed here. So anyway, getting back to this, when I go to hand stitch something, let's just say we need black 1.2 mils, and I don't have that written, I probably should. I take the thread, I take this, and I drop that on, and as I need thread, which of course, as I'm holding a camera, I can't find the end of it. But notice how freely that spins. As I pull the thread, that'll easily spin for me. I can cut it, the rubber keeps it from sliding around too much, and I can use whatever appropriate size needles that I have. When I'm done, simply put the thread back, and I can put that back on the shelf, and it's good to go. Now, I only have a couple of these larger spools, so with oh, something just dropped. One of the needles came out. I'll have to make sure that gets back in properly. I used some of my scrap leather and punched out some coasters. Alright, so it's not this, it's other scrap. And with rubber on the bottom, I have a dowel rod in here glued into place. And so when I have these larger spools of thread, simply drop that in. There's enough of a handle here for me to take this to the workbench, and then you can see how easily that spins and I can get more thread. So same exact concept over here, just a larger dowel rod in the center. So yeah, I've got a strop here. I have my stitching pony clamped up right there. I don't use it that often, so I kind of want that out of the way. This tool is for one very specific purpose. I've got it wrapped around. This is for when I do large amounts of skiving for belts, and if I happen to leave this tightened down, and as I've just been working with my hands, there comes times where I am not strong enough to loosen this because apparently I just cinched it down. It stays there, so I can take this tool, this rubber grip, and actually tighten that down, grip it on here, and it gives me leverage to get that turned and loosened. So yeah, that is the only purpose that I have this tool for, and it works very well. So I've got various things, stuff that I don't use very often. I've got up in these tubs at the top. They're the hardest to access. So I've got stuff like paracord in here, and I've got different souvenirs and very first prototypes, historical things for the company up in there. This is a sample bag that I made, so when I go around and I show people samples of the different leathers and hardwares and coasters and stuff like that, I take this bag. This is a pattern by dieselpunk.ro. So Tony, he does great stuff. I've made several of his patterns. That's one of them. One you probably see quite often is the Plague Doctor mask. That's another one of his. So is this mask right there. Pretty cool stuff. So yeah, folks, this is the workshop for Just a Nazarene Leather Company. Let me kind of turn this back around so you can see the major updates that we made. First, raising this up a foot, bracing in that shelf at the back, And then of course the big one, building these shelves and pegboard. And this is probably the cleanest my workshop has looked since we moved in. And I'm very proud to show that off to you. It's not done. There's going to be more improvements, and as I make them, I will share all of those adventures with you. So let's get back over to the workbench where you can see my face. We'll close this thing out, and yeah, thank you for joining me in my workshop. That'll do it. Thank you so much for joining me in the workshop today. A little bit outside, all over, getting this workshop improved and cleaned up. I hope you enjoyed everything that you saw. Again, if you wouldn't mind, give us a like, give us a share, subscribe if you want to. And if there was anything that maybe I was unclear about or something you'd like some clarification on, just some questions, put them in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer them and maybe even make videos based on some of your comments. All right? My name is John with Justin Nazarene Leather Company. Thank you so much for joining me in the workshop today. Hope you have a great day and go with confidence. Bye now. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to check out more content that we've got on the channel. Also, consider becoming a channel member. Link below.